Hey everyone, Ridden here. Thank you for coming. And today we're going to take an in-depth look at episode 3 of season 1 of Marvel Studios' WandaVision. Welcome everyone. And yes, it's that time of the week again. We have a new episode of Marvel Studios' WandaVision. And let me tell you, this was by far the best episode yet. So let's jump to it. Moving both the plot and the decade meter forward a bit, we've now entered a new era in Westview as we return back to our characters, as can be seen immediately from the show's newest opening scene in full color. We're now in the 70s, and the show is finally revving up towards the good stuff. In very Brady Bunch fashion, the new intro shows Wanda and Vision going about their lives preparing for their newly discovered and rapidly arriving child. The aspect ratio, cuts between scenes, and camera shots are all very consistent and accurate odes to that era's television productions, and really aids in bringing the story to life and settling the viewer back down in this new presentation of the show. I love the fact that through the first 3 episodes there has been so much variety in the style and packaging of the show's rollout, and that in every way they've nailed the different decades while also continuing to move the plot forward and keeping us intrigued. This episode begins with Wanda and Vision having a very olden style in-home checkup from the town's doctor, which was a very cool thing for me as I immediately recognized him from many of some of my favorite films and television shows such as Independence Day, The X-Files, The Island, and even Angel. He's been around the film industry for a long time, and it was very refreshing to see him here. Things start to get really interesting though, as upon the end of the examination, while walking Dr. Nielsen out, Vision encounters a couple of very weird occurrences. The doctor tells him he's actually going on vacation to Bermuda, which ends up not happening by the end of the episode, and when it doesn't, we see another crack in whatever reality or happenstance is taking place, as the doctor alludes to how difficult it is for anyone to leave the town. Before Vision heads back inside, he then encounters Herb, who seems to be experiencing some sort of glitch in the Matrix, as he's using his hedge trimmer to cut through the divider wall, something which he doesn't seem to realize until Vision points it out. Throughout this episode, we begin to see more and more of the breaking of the charade and begin to be able to form our own understanding of what exactly is happening here. Wanda's contractions begin to have huge real world or this world manifestations as the show progresses. Another cool thing to be mentioned is that all of the effects used to show Wanda and Vision's magic throughout the episode are pretty consistent with the era of television we're in, such as Wanda's magic being delivered as puffs of red smoke, which any of us who grew up watching old reruns of, say, Bewitched or furthermore I Dream of Jeannie could easily recognize. Even Wanda's telekinesis isn't delivered as smoothly as we have normally seen. Take for instance this scene of her painting a stork on the wall of the nursery. As Wanda's pregnancy progresses, so does Vision's perception of the reality, of which he begins to gain clarity, as he acknowledges to Wanda that something is off and wrong here. And in this moment again, we get another instance of Wanda using her control of the reality to rewind the moment and have the scene play out in a more favorable end, to her desires, as well as a very choppy 1970s style transition between the two moments in time. Interestingly enough, as the two disagree about the baby's name going back and forth, they actually reference the comic book names of their future twins, Timmy and Billy. As Wanda worsens, so do the conditions around her, creating havoc for everyone else, as well as herself and Vision. The power going out and her water breaking, creating rain indoors, are all things we see or are told are happening in others' homes as well. And when we're given a brief break in the programming for the Hydro Soap commercial, we're obviously given even more clues here as to what could possibly be going on, as we see a mom having a really rough time of things, but then she steps in front of all of these things happening, pictured behind her, and we get the tagline, "Find the goddess within," as the narration urges the viewer to create or go into a world all of their own volition. Anyone a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has seen Hydra Soak before, as Coulson brought it up as an occurrence of Hydra having used it to mind control people. And as Wanda seems to be a god in her own right in the reality here, it gives us hints of what could be taking place. Upon returning to the show, things have gotten more serious, so Vision is tasked with going to hopefully retrieve Nilsson before he leaves for Bermuda. Something he does, not caring at all to conceal his powers as he runs right up to the doctor. We then get more screen time with Geraldine, whom we also know is Monica Rambeau. Now at this point in the show, I couldn't stop laughing because there's so much that takes place that only 1970s sitcom television could make any sense. I couldn't take it. Wanda tries her hardest to conceal her pregnancy from Geraldine, even in her attempts to fend off the now full fleshed out Stark high stepping around her living room area. And this may be another nod to the control Wanda has over the reality and the perception of other characters, as none of the methods she uses should have been able to conceal what she was attempting to hide here. Here, the stork is obviously an omen of the reality in Wanda's current situation, as storks symbolize the arrival of children, and try as she might to make the stork go away, she can't. So the closer the stork gets to her, the further her pregnancy progresses, until such a time when her and Geraldine enter the nursery. Geraldine sees the stork, who has now assumed a statutory stance similar to the early painting of itself, and Wanda can no longer keep up the ruse. As they prepare for the delivery, Wanda's power goes haywire again, and surprisingly, Geraldine doesn't find it all that weird or disconcerting. I believe during the delivery we actually see the true Wanda emerge for a brief period, as she says she can't do this. Right as she finishes giving birth to the baby, Vision and Nilsson arrive, and the baby is named Tommy, who is comic book accurate to Wiccan, who ends up having similar powers to Wanda. It's at this moment we find out that there is another baby on the way, who Wanda christens as Billy, who in the comics has the same power as his late uncle Quicksilver. I love this comical moment with her screaming and Vision yelling and the baby just being like, what is going on here? This was obviously foreshadowed earlier in the episode when the pair couldn't decide on a name. At this point is where we kind of start to get more plot points understood. Vision is told by Nilsson that his vacation will no longer be happening because, face it, in this town it's kind of a hard place to leave. Then Vision notices Agatha and Herb having a discussion, which leads to a very eerie encounter between the trio as Agatha and Herb reveal to Vision that Monica is actually the subject of contempt amongst town members, as no one knows her and she doesn't live anywhere, as in she doesn't have a home there in the town. Just as it seems that Herb is about to tell Vision some truth to what's really going on, Agatha stops him with what I could only perceive as fear in her eyes. This scene happens in parallel with our scene inside the house, as Wanda and Geraldine have an exchange in which Wanda tells her she was also a twin to Pietro and begins singing a Sokovian lullaby, to which Geraldine, Monica for us, seems to have an adverse effect and snaps out of whatever haze or spell she is under, and asks Wanda if her twin was killed by Ultron. Things get very tense between the two, and you can easily perceive the uneasiness and possibly even fear Monica seems to have in the moment of Wanda. It's here Wanda notices the sword logo on Geraldine's necklace, which is clearly the same logo she has seen twice before, on the back of the beekeeper as well as on the side of the helicopter she found in the hedge. In the trailer, we've seen bits of this interaction as Monica is blown, or shall I say chauffeured, right through the wall and on out of the town before Vision makes his way back in. But here we don't see that final interaction between the two. So once Vision returns, it's just Wanda there with the children. The show ends with Monica landing outside of the town sphere in our new aspect ratio apart from that of the shows, and being approached by all of the other members of SWORD. Looking at the first 3 episodes, it's quite obvious that it seems we're gearing up for Mephisto. As noted by other sources, there have been many Easter eggs pointing to this conclusion, many of which involve Agatha, whom many of us believe to be in some way linked to whatever evil is behind the town's reality. I am beginning to believe her husband Ralph may be more than just the dunce she badmouths all the time who never seems to be around. All of the devil references, Ralph looking better in the dark, the upside down logo from the toaster being 666 seems to be direct indicators that the demonic character from Faust Legend, with a debut going all the way back to the Silver Age of comic books, could be who is behind what we've seen thus far. Interestingly enough, we've actually seen this character before on the big screen in both installments of Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider, as he is immortal, extremely powerful, and has been known to manipulate the forces of magic. It makes perfect sense that he is behind the reality, imprisonment, and chaos we've seen thus far in Westview. As stated earlier, this was by far my favorite episode thus far. I love the patience and time the showrunners and writers are taking to really build a story and setting of this tale. And every week it seems we'll get just a bit more of the story as to what is really going on. We'll be continuing to cover this show every week here on the channel, and I'm sure you're just as excited and anxious as I am to see how this story continues to unfold. So be sure to come on back and continue to cover it with us. And if I missed something you picked up on an episode, or if you just feel like sharing what you thought of tonight's episode, please jump down in the comments and let us know your thoughts. Again, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell for notifications if you've enjoyed our content here tonight. Jump down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And while you're at it, be sure to check out some of the other content here on the channel. All of the necessary links are listed here below for you to keep up with the coming content and shareables. Please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. Or just the one you use most frequently. We are slowly but surely building a community here, and I would personally love for you to be a part of that. And last but not least, we have a merch store. So whether you see something you like or just simply want to support the channel, head on over to our shop and grab something, or grab everything. But again, thank you so much, guys and gals, for visiting here with us today. I really appreciate each and every viewing minute of your time you've given us. There's loads of content we'll be sending your way, so I'll be seeing you. But for now, be blessed. And it was written.
Across the nighttime, the city sleep inside. Yeah, hear her voice shake my window.